I seen that Man Who Fell to Earth with David Bowie. I don't remember much except for Rip Torn gets his limp dick touched by a chick very on screen. There's a scene where Rip Torn is in the in bed with a girl and he's in the all together and she just like grabs his dick and it's
Mm.
all on screen and he's very soft. And it's like, why is this on screen? I don't want to see
Well, he has
this.
to be soft to be on screen.
Well, don't put it on the screen then. It's like, how much did you pay the actress to do that? And if she did it on her own, that's sexual harassment, assault even. Did they
Well,
have did they have an intimacy coordinator?
it reminds me of A View to a Kill, which you have not watched yet,
Not yet.
but will have by the time this episode is released. So it's kind of a time warp. But look out for a sex scene in A View to a Kill with Roger Moore and Grace Jones.
Oh boy.
Because behind the scenes, Roger Moore got under the covers and she stuck him with a dildo.
Oh, that's so mean. He was such an old man at the time. That poor old white man.
Now, apparently, this was because Roger Moore liked to goose the women of the productions he was in.
Well, did he goose Grace Jones? Because I can't imagine him going up to Grace Jones and goosing her.
See, I heard about all this right in the throes of Time's Up. So this is like 2016, 2017. I read about this. So I was like, oh, maybe he must have been viewed as some monster to all these women, like a predator. And I saw an interview with Grace Jones who couldn't say enough good things about Roger Moore and how funny it was. Like it was almost like a frat prank that she returned the favor, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess back then people could take a joke, but
It was just all in fun.
yeah.
Speaking of
Now,
shocking interviews, I don't want to interrupt your point. Did you see the Shelley Duvall interview that was on Twitter recently where she was talking about how much she loved Stanley Kubrick and Stanley Kubrick loved her and they were so collaborative together on The
period.
Shining?
Stanley loved her, period.
Yeah. Can you believe that lie? This is fake news.
Sold us a bill of goods for decades,
You
saying
know
that he
that
destroyed her life.
R.I.P. Shelley Duvall, cause of death, trauma inflicted by Stanley Kubrick in 1979.
It's a lot about rage and trauma colliding.
Uh, 78 and 79. That was like a
1950 to 2024.
it was like a 2 year long shoot.
It only took 45 years for that trauma to take her life, but it got her in the end.
Generational trauma.
Oh man.
Uh,
But yeah, I guess to finish up my point about Roger Moore, that I guess it depends on how you read the term goose. Like when you read up the definition of goosing, you're like, well, that's
you never heard of goosing?
well, depending on how it's executed.
Yeah.
Like some ways you read it, it's like, oh, they're sticking fingers up these women's like rear ends and stuff, and they're like, well, no, not that graphic.
Well, you don't get that. It's I imagine it's very difficult to get penetration when pulling a goose.
Yeah, but especially back in the day when more women wore dresses and skirts.
But it's just a quick nip on the bud, if you will.
Like I guess the male equivalent would be like a dick tap, the way all used to do
Yeah,
in high
kinda,
school and
yeah.
middle school.
I mean, you could goose a dude if you wanted to.
Yeah.
If you really wanted to. It's pretty self-explanatory. You just make your hand in the shape of a goose's beak, and you get up in there and give him a little tap.
I'm now aiming precisely at your groin.
Maybe a little pinch at the end.
So
You
Grace
know,
Jones, she stood up for all the silenced Bond women of 2 decades, and
I'm sure they were so distraught over it. Oh my God, James Bond goosed me. Oh, the horror, the horror. He's He's got to be one of the most handsome men in Hollywood to play James Bond for 2 decades. Oh my God, he touched me. I hate it.
You got to remember, Brett, I read this in the context of the president had just talked about grabbing women by the pussy. And this, this is crazy behavior. I'm like, well, I guess if you goose someone, I guess it's the same as they're describing in a way.
Or as Lavelle Crawford put it, yeah, I grab a pussy from time to time.
To be honest with you, I don't even know how one does grab a pussy.
Well, I assume
I can imagine, but when you grab something, it's almost like you're picking it up and you're taking it with you.
Mrs. Cole,